You found your nanny. You love her. The kids love her. And now you're sitting there with a blank W-2 form, a blank 1099 form, and zero idea which one is yours to legally fill out. So you're tempted to just Google easiest way to pay a nanny and just go with whatever pops up first. Don't. Because the IRS already answered this question for you. And getting it wrong is expensive, baby. It is expensive. Hi, I'm Vivi. I focus on the legal, the financial, and the behavioral side of childcare here. When you're staring down at that paperwork, it is very common to see other parents on Facebook groups or online forums that are telling you to just issue your nanny a 1099 at the end of the year so you don't have to deal with taxes. It sounds so clean, so easy, and completely legal on paper. But the IRS is incredibly aggressive about this specific rule. And falling for that online advice can lead to a catastrophic financial audit. So let's talk about the actual federal law so that you can keep your family completely safe. Okay, to understand why your nanny is always an employee, you have to look past the job title and look at what the IRS calls the right to control test. The federal government determines a worker's classification based on who holds the control in this relationship. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Do you set the exact hours that your nanny shows up at your house? Do you give them specific instructions on how to feed, put down, and care for your child? Do they perform the work inside your home using your stroller, your high chair, your toys? If the answer to those questions are yes, then guess what? You have an employee. An independent contractor, like a plumber, an electrician, or a freelance graphic designer, is an independent business entity. They set their own rates. They bring their own commercial tools. They work when they want, and they decide how to get the job done. A nanny cannot be legally classified as an independent business when they are fully integrated into your household daily survival. The IRS has ruled on this definitively. Nannies, senior caregivers, and consistent housekeepers are domestic employees, period. There is zero legal gray area here. Now, let's look at what happens if you totally ignore this rule and you give your nanny a 1099 form anyway. A lot of parents think, well, my nanny asked to be a 1099 contractor so that they can handle their own taxes, so I just give them what they wanted. Again, the IRS does not care what you and your nanny agreed to or what kind of handshake deal that you sign. An employer and an employee cannot contract away a federal tax law. If you issue them a 1099, your nanny will be hit with a massive self-employment tax bill come April, which will then force them to pay both the employee and the employer share of Social Security and Medicare. The second they realize that they owe thousands of dollars because of that 1099, they will likely walk into a local tax office or file an IRS form SS8, which triggers an investigation into worker status. And once the IRS sees that the nanny was working out of your living room, they will retroactively reclassify them as an employee. And you will instantly, and I mean instantly, be billed for all unpaid employer payroll taxes, back payment for state unemployment funds, compounding interest, and a failure to file penalty that can pass $10,000s of dollars. And believe it or not, the IRS tax audit isn't even the scariest part of a 1099 mistake. The true nightmare scenario happens if your nanny gets hurt on the job. Imagine your caregiver trips over a baby gate, falls down the stairs, and breaks their wrist while carrying your child. If they are a legitimate W-2 employee, they are covered under your state-mandated workers' compensation insurance. Their medical bills are paid, their lost wages are covered, and your family is legally protected. But if you classify them as a 1099 independent contractor, they do not have workers' comp coverage. When they go to the emergency room and state that they were injured while working at your address, the hospital or the health insurance provider will immediately flag your property. And because you didn't hold a valid W-2 workers' comp policy, you can be personally sued for their medical bills. You can face massive fines from your state labor board for operating without employee insurance. And your standard homeowner's insurance policy will completely deny the claim because it has a strict exclusion for undocumented commercial employees. So trying to save a few bucks on payroll paperwork can literally put your house at risk. I always get parents asking me this. Okay, so what about if I'm in a nanny share or I have an occasional casual date night sitter? For a casual date night sitter who comes once or twice a month, they generally don't hit the annual tax threshold. So you don't need to worry about W-2 paperwork. But if you're in a nanny share, where two families split the cost of a single caregiver, that nanny is actually a W-2 employee for both families separately. You cannot combine forces and issue a joint tax document. Each individual household must register as an employer. They have to track their specific wage payout, and they have to withhold taxes cleanly. And of course, it sounds complicated, but modern household payroll softwares will automate this split seamlessly for a tiny monthly fee, keeping both families 100% protected. Now, here is the ultimate twist. Running a legal W-2 payroll doesn't actually have to cost you a fortune. And in fact, there's a federal tax credit multiplier that makes being a legal employee significantly cheaper than paying cash under the table or using an illegal 1099 shortcut. And before I show you how to get the government to give you a $3,000 check just for being compliant, hit that subscribe button. It really helps. Okay, so that major financial win is the Dependent Care FSA paired with the Child and Dependent Care Tax Credit. When you employ a W-2 nanny, you can legally utilize up to $5,000 of tax-free corporate money to pay their wages, which instantly slashes your federal tax bill by up to $2,000 depending on your income bracket. Add in the childcare tax credit and you completely offset the cost of your employer payroll taxes. You gain total legal safety. You protect your nanny's future retirement benefits and save your nanny's budget all at the same time. Setting up your hiring framework the right way from day one is the hallmark of a truly professional household employer. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!